special episode of Nerdtooine and Movie Podcast. I'm your host, Nerdtooine. I do have a very special guest with me today. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
What's going on, everybody? My name is Calvin Chambers. I am here from Icarus Metro Comics. We're here to talk about many different things, but Nerdtooine.
So let's see. What is your nerd origin story? I have to ask everyone that because when we're in this nerd sphere, something got us there, and I gotta know, what's your nerd origin story?
Okay, my nerd origin story. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't like I saw anything out. It was just kind of there in front of me. Always tell the story about how I was like, I was like 4 years old. I was so young, and my dad was trying to get me ready for school growing up, and he just put TV on. We turned on Kids WB, and with that, it was Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, Transformers Beast Wars, Digimon, back to back to back to back. And, I kind of grew up on that. I kind of grew up on, the whole Justice League, the whole Batman animated series, the whole Static Shock, Batman Beyond, Teen Titans. And, just kind of fell in love with just anime, kind of fell in love with just comics. And, it didn't just teach me, how to write a good story myself. As you can see in the background is my story, Oni Hunter, that we from Icarus Metro Comics created, but it also taught me life lessons, and I, stuff that I very much cherish to this day.
Well, see, and that's the thing when these a lot of us around our age, we just grew up with those cartoons and the animated series. Like when it comes to the X-Men and Batman, the animated series. Oh my God. So I always talk about when I did my origin story was it started off in comics real young when my folks were trying to get me to read. So they gave me like Batman comics, Wolverine comics, the things I love. But Star Wars, what really got me into becoming like a super nerd. But then once the Batman animated series and the X-Men and the Spider-Man series in the 90s, oh my God, that changed everything because those, and I think what really did it for me too was, with the Spider-Man, the X-Men, the Silver Surfer, Fantastic Four, they all crossed over. And to me, that was something that was like, how? Wait a minute, these are separate cartoons. I mean, I know it's in the same world, but they're not supposed to be able to cross like this. This is crazy. And I think that's what really got me into like being a super nerd. And like, I remember that feeling I got when Ghost Rider showed up for the first time. I thought to there was no way Ghost Rider's ever showing up in any of these shows. And then he shows up. And I remember that feeling like, whoa, that was freaking cool. And I think that is what really got me to be like a super nerd, like where I watch everything hundreds and hundreds of times to try to make sure I caught every single little detail. And I think the fact that we grew up on shows like that had these connected tissues and had actually great stories is why a lot of us seem to have the knack for storytelling. Like there's quite a few. Like we might just be nerds online to some people, but I mean we're creating worlds and stories that like could be the next thing that everyone's reading or watching. And it all stems from the origins, from the things that we grew up on and what molded us. And like you said, it's not just how to tell a good story, but the life lessons you learn in those cartoons back in the day. Man, they ain't got nothing like that nowadays.
Man, you said so much in that I want to touch on. First off, I do want to say that I kind of did miss that Marvel gap in the 90s.
Okay.
But I caught the late 90s DC gap. You know what I mean? I caught the Superman animated series, the Justice League, the Batman Beyond, because Batman Beyond is what I first saw. Right.
Oh, that's
but then when Justice League came on, and then I see all the different episodes, like it was like 2 episodes per story.
Yep.
And then
I remember.
And then there was that one, and then Static Shock came on Kids WB, and I was watching that, right? But then there was that one episode of Justice League where we got to see
I know exactly what we're.
the
I know
future.
exactly what episode you're
Yeah,
about to talk about.
they
I'm
went
so
to the
happy. Go.
future. You know what I mean? And then they see Static and Batman Beyond with the Justice League. I was like, yo, what is this? I was like,
Yep.
and then you had the ending of Justice League connecting to the ending of like you didn't really understand the ending of Batman Beyond because it ended in the Justice League with the origin of Terry McGinnis. And it was just like there was so much connectivity. It was unbelievable. Even with the Teen Titans, I wish they connected Teen Titans a little bit more. But I know that was kind of like a reboot standalone. They wanted to touch on Dick Grayson. They wanted to touch on Slade. They wanted to touch on Terra and that whole new Teen Titans run that came out. But yeah, that was my start. And my parents, and growing up, I didn't read comics, right? I read manga. My parents were okay with like, my mom's a teacher. You know what I'm saying? So it's she reading was a must.
Right.
But when I found Naruto, when I found Rurouni Kenshin, Bleach, Dragon Ball Z, and I just kept picking those books up from the library, 20 books at a time. They were like, okay, as long as you're reading something,
Right. Right.
Not knowing what was in it and not knowing what it'll lead to.
Right.
As long as you're reading something, you know what I mean? And you also mentioned we are out here as creators creating worlds of characters that may eventually be the next thing. I'm pretty sure that when Stan Lee and Jack Kirby first started, they didn't think that they'd be out here making, with this massive world with nonstop comics, nonstop TV shows, animated series, movies. They didn't think that was going to happen, but they developed over time. And it's not easy. It's not easy because Marvel almost got 80 years under the belt. You know what I mean? So whatever's, out there now, whatever's being built now could be the next in the future. Could, there's nothing, the conglomerates that are already there aren't going away. But who's to say there aren't going to be more? Who's to say there's not going to be a new Image? Who's to say there's not going to be a new Force? You know what I mean? A new, what's the word? Black Box?
Yep. The thing though that this new wave of technological ability also kind of allows us to, if we don't want to even go through a big publisher, we can crowdfund it and get it done ourselves. That was not something you could do 20, 30 years ago. Like you couldn't go on social media and be like, hey, listen, I've got this dope ass comic book. I'm trying to get it in the world. Y'all trying to read it? Come listen to me and jump on this Kickstarter. Like that's not something that could have even been fathomed 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And you touched on something too. Initially, they were creating all of these characters. They didn't have this huge lexicon of characters to work with. So they were really writing individual stories that they then had to connect because they made it that way. And that's something a lot of people don't think about too, because they look back at some of these. Like I actually decided I was going to reread every single Moon Knight comic or appearance of Moon Knight that I possibly could. So I went back to the very first one. And man, some of the the language they used was offensive as hell, to the point where when I opened it, Marvel was like, "Hey, by the way, this is bad. This was bad then, but it got away with it then, so we're not gonna delete it now. But just know it's bad." And I'm like, "It can't be that." Okay, that is a little bad. All right, but like. Moon Knight's a great example. Like he was not supposed to be a character that lasted. It was just a random character that was supposed to show up once or twice and then everyone just loved him so much that he ended up getting his own run, and being a big part of a lot of things. I mean, people aren't realizing, I think, and I've been saying this a while about this, but I don't want to talk too much because they're, on strike, but Moon Knight is going to play big into the multiverse saga.
Yeah.
And no one realizes that because they don't read a lot of people don't read comics, but there's this one storyline that freaking Kang I can't remember the name. It's a specific scepter that versions of Moon Knight have been battling this one version of Kang throughout all human history. And there's like a pirate Moon Knight, there's an ancient Egyptian Moon Knight, there's a Viking Moon Knight. It's just like every generation had a Moon Knight to stop Kang. And like that whole idea would just be so great to me, like to show because I feel like one of the problems with Kang is why Thanos worked is why he doesn't work. Because with Thanos's plan,
What do you mean by that?
when we first got introduced to Thanos, it was little by little. We had no idea of his plan. It was just him showing up and saying random shit and disappearing.
Yeah.
With Kang, we know exactly what he's doing. It
Mm-hmm.
was laid out concrete in Loki exactly what he's doing. So we know there's a multiversal war on the horizon. So it makes a lot of these earthbound things like Secret Invasion and anything that doesn't have like universal consequences not feel as important because we know the multiversal Secret Wars is coming. With Thanos, we had no idea what he was up to, what he was doing. I mean, sure, he got the gauntlet, but some people didn't even know what that was, and like every single thing that he was doing on the side that all connected, we didn't see all that once or even were told to up front. It was like sprinkled into a post-credit scene here, a random scene here. Just it was a little bit of sprinkling to season the salt. Just a little seasoning salt where they literally just took a whole thing of garlic powder and just dumped it right on and was like, Kang, here you go. And that's why they have a very good opportunity to be able to fix that by going in and making it, giving him a past that none of us
Yeah.
knew about.
Mhm.
And then that's like, oh, he's been here the whole time. Oh my god, you know what I mean? That's what they need with Kang, and I think they're missing the ball on that a little bit.
Now, I think that they did mess up with making Kang the villain within Ant-Man. Now, I know
Yeah,
that was the whole setup. I know that was the whole setup, but I'm pretty sure Ant-Man had a lot more villains than Kang. I mean, you could have cameoed Kang,
yep,
but making Kang the villain, people are like, all right, well, we've seen it then. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
what is there to look forward to? Okay, so they're gonna do that same thing that Ant-Man did against Kang, against all the other millions of Kangs that they showed. How's that one Kang gonna come back and defeat this millions of Kangs if he's the true conqueror? You know, um, and I know that the next Moon Knight will have Kang in it. That whole storyline plot that you just mentioned, they said that it's probably going to be the next season's of Moon Knight. They said that Kang is going to, probably make appearances in a bunch of other shows. And,
Yeah,
personally, I'm like, I don't want them to fight the same villain. It'd be cool if we built up the world a little bit more, built up a new team of Avengers, built up, some more, heroes within the galaxy so that when Kang actually comes, they can call upon everybody
yeah,
in a scene or in a way that's better than Endgame. Because in addition, now that we've gotten the mass, like now that we got an Endgame and Infinity War, the reason why people aren't liking Marvel like they used to is because everybody is comparing these new shows and new
yeah.
movies to Endgame and Infinity War. You can't do that. That was the
No,
final
right.
that saga. You cannot do that. You know what I mean? We're starting fresh. We're rebuilding, but I do feel like we are slacking on a rebuilding. You know what I mean? There's lack of like the writing quality has definitely gone down.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're trying to push a schedule. But then again, we should get about 2 to 3 movies a year. You know, so if you want to replace a movie with a TV show, that's fine. But I mean, we did get 3 movies this year. Then we got Guardians, Ant Man, and we're gonna get the Marvels. Yeah, we did
Yeah,
get
we'll
three
get the
movies.
Marvels.
I
Well, but
take that.
you
Yeah,
gotta remember also the Miles Morales. I'm drawing a blank of the name of the movie. It's not MCU, but it is MCU, the animated one. I'm drawing a Into the Spider-Verse.
I mean that's Sony.
Well, but it does connect.
Yeah, yeah.
They've
That's all I thought.
and I
Yeah,
think that's gonna be, and that's Miles is coming.
yeah. Yeah,
And
because we saw Gambino's Prowler.
yep. And all I
Yeah,
gotta say is I just hope, I hope, and I know I'm wrong, and it's fine, but I hope that when he shows up, he doesn't get the horrible racist response he got when he initially came in the comics.
yeah, yes.
It's not gonna happen, but I'm here now, hoping and praying that whenever he does show up, we can go, okay, it's 2025. I think we can just let Miles be Miles and not have to. Oh, he's not my Spider-Man. He's not any
And it is
what?
in addition to that, I do feel like they need to figure out a way to get Tom Holland to get on board with it. You know, I know that he has been talking about retiring from acting or taking a break, and it's kind of like, he's like, oh, I'll do it if it tops Far From or No Way Home or something like that. But I'm just like, you can't really top that until you build a new saga. That was number three out of,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like people got high expectations, you know what I mean? So that's why I'm trying
Oh,
to build
absolutely.
something around them. Yeah.
Well, and and that's the thing. People are saying there's superhero fatigue and all that. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's more just it's the same stories being told over and over again, and I think that's where people like you and me might come into play and give the people something that they didn't even know they wanted, and then can't help but need. Because I mean, so what was the first comic or manga that you actually worked on?
I mean, so the first thing I've worked on was everything I worked on was indie. Um, where I wrote a 10-page comic like in 2016, 2017. I released it. The story about that is actually very interesting. I was working with another company doing that type of things, and it wasn't my best. You know what I mean? It wasn't my best. I mean, the interiors were good. The story was a 10-page one shot, but I definitely could have put a lot more into it. So I took my time. I started working on a web comic. It's called Juice Paranormal Adventures. It's on Webtoon. And I'm actually writing that into a light novel right now.
Okay.
But then I started working on Icarus Metro, and that was my first two titles. Icarus Metro 1, Icarus Metro 2. Icarus Metro 3 is in progress, and I'm going to continue on for about 6 issues. But then I came up with the idea of Oni Hunter. So Oni Hunter, right here, you can check it out. I actually have a physical copy, and you can also look at the artwork in the back. This is the other cover for the Kickstarter. I started working on an idea because I wanted to create something that was sports related. I wanted the Icarus Metro had a black woman on the first cover, and the second cover was an Italian guy because each member of the team is a different nationality. But I wanted to have a character who was, a black male on the front cover, showcasing his talents, inspirations for the story. Iron Man, Ronnie Kenshin, Kuroko Basketball, um, uh, Blade. I wanted to create something that not only showed sports, but showed some demon hunting, showed a narcissistic character, becoming more grounded, and also showing him within each chapter building a bigger team so that they could face bigger threats. You know, that was something I saw with Ronnie Kenshin that I really loved because I think like every 3 episodes, like, a new member joined their crew, and whenever they faced a villain, and the villain had like more than 4 to 5 people, you know, the main character couldn't take everybody. It was just then you see another character popping up and saying, "Hey, you know, what's all this?"
Right.
So it's gonna be like moments like that where returning characters pop up to lend a hand because they all have the same goal and they all have respect for the main character. Um, so you get the fan favorites, you get the stylish outfits, you get you get the adventure, but also sometimes you get the cheesy dialogue. Um, and you leave every story wanting more. So that's my goal with Oni Hunter. I'm definitely trying to just expand with like new stories every year. Oni Hunter is this year's new story, and I want to provide a couple of new stories for next year. That way, we continue to grow. We got multiple titles for multiple people that like different things. I know for myself, um, it's you keep creating the same thing, or you keep a run going, and then, say someone doesn't like that run, but they like a specific other thing. I want to make sure the business is a little versatile,
Right.
um, so that my end goal can be achieved based off of what people like the most. And my end goal is animation, either animation or some type of live action project. So
Yeah. Well, and it's not, and I actually talked about this in my previous episodes. People kind of like when you say things like that, they give you this like, oh, he wants to get it optioned. If in this point in time you're not making something that's good enough in your head to be optioned, then what are you even doing?
Yeah.
I mean,
So, you know,
it's not the goal, you know what I mean, and
mhm.
for everyone, but it could be something that could happen, you know, and if you focus on, you know, writing the great stories and making it something that could be, because comics are so malleable, you can tell any story on it, and then what it does, you can literally hand that to a producer and go, here's the storyboard for the first movie. Call me when you're ready. You know what I mean? You don't like, there's just so much you can do with it, and I see people like tiptoeing around like, well, if it happens, you know, I would, you know, no, if you think your book is good enough, you should think someone's gonna try to pay me to make this.
So Kyle, people actually like look down upon people because they want to write their stuff into
I I
live
have
action.
I have actually had a few people when I said that like this book is gonna be good enough to get optioned, they're like, oh, so you're one of those. One of what?
What does that mean?
So, and what what the people that are just trying to write a book so it gets optioned so you can be rich and famous. Um,
Well, it's
it
not
doesn't.
about. I mean,
So hold on.
you write a
But
book.
my
You
thing
write a
is,
book.
even if it works, it don't mean you're gonna get rich. I mean,
Yeah, I'm
there's a
saying it
reason
don't mean you're
why
gonna
the
get rich.
writers and the actors are striking right now
Yeah, yeah,
because the most of them can't make a living wage.
yeah. It doesn't mean you're gonna get rich, and it definitely doesn't mean you're gonna get famous. You know? But me, I'm a movie guy. I'm a
Me
hardcore
too. Oh yeah.
movie guy. You know what I mean? I worked at a movie theater for 3 years just so I can go and watch free movies. I am a movie guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, if I can't write in a format where I have the option to basically collect all the issues together and say, hey, this is a movie, get this made. If I or this is a 3-part movie or like 3 movies in one, this is a trilogy. If I can't do that, I'm doing the wrong thing. That's not my
Yeah.
goal. You know what I mean? My goal is to create this medium, right? Because I could easily write it as a novel, you know?
Yeah.
But my goal is to create this medium so people can see it visually. That way, when it's complete, I can say, "Hey, this is what we should do." You know what I mean? This is how we should get it formatted. That way, it's an easy translation because when you look at the whole storyboarding aspect, a comic book is basically a storyboard.
Yeah.
You know
Exactly.
what I mean? You can just take the scenes and say, hey, we want to write these scenes out, and these scenes are the actual movie or the TV show. That's all it is. I mean, when you
Yeah.
look at scenes like Naruto, when you look at One Piece, when you look at every anime, every cartoon, Avatar: The Lost Airbender, when you look at their graphic novels, it's scene by scene the same thing in the shows.
So, and
It's a
I
story.
think, I think that's why a lot of people don't have that like feeling towards it because they know manga, because manga is what started anime, which is what made like so many people's like lives, and I feel like the people who would look at it like that, like where it's like, oh, they're just trying to make movies or whatever, they probably weren't into manga or any type of anime, because and that was one thing, or even like we were talking about earlier with the animated shows in the 90s. I mean, if you just didn't like that stuff, and that's fine for you. I mean, that's no hate to anyone who has, who doesn't like that kind of thing. I do, and I'm writing a zombie comic, so if I'm worth my salt as a writer, a studio should look at that and go, that's actually a damn good story. Walking Dead's almost done, isn't it? That hole's about to need to be
Yep.
filled, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not writing it so someone will come pay me a whole bunch of money to option it, but I've actually written specific scenes that I call cinematic scenes, where I have my artist draw it as cinematically as humanly possible, and in my head I go, that's what's gonna go. Oh, that's a nice panel right there. And that may not even be just for as someone who wants to get an option, but this people who read it and people who maybe even put it up for awards and stuff. I'm not trying to get awards, but hell, I would love some recognition for my hard work. And anyone who says that they're not, I mean, that's very humble of them, but I don't buy it. I mean, you not I know not everyone needs constant validation, but I do. I mean, I got no problem admitting that. Like,
Right. Yeah, I want people to give me feedback. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if it's good feedback or bad feedback because I've gotten both.
Right. Oh
You
yeah.
know?
Oh
But
no.
you know what I
Talk
mean?
about bad feedback. I was actually literally ready to have my comic go to Ashcan, put it up on Kickstarter. I was gonna send it off to print, all of that. Went to MegaCon, showed it to a few people in the industry, and they were like, "Man, this story's pretty good. This art's amazing, but your lettering sucks."
Mm.
I had one guy look me dead in the eye and goes, "Hey, bro, your lettering is trash." And I'm like, "Ah, that really hurt me." And then I went almost back to the drawing board. And I was like, I need to find me a letterer, you know. So I lined up a letterer. We're finally getting all of everything together so that the letterer can go in and get that ash can done. But I mean, like, you have to be able to accept feedback, good or negative, for sure, if you're going to be any type of creator, you know, because
Yeah,
that's especially when it's artistic style, or whether it's reading, right, you know, whatever, because art is just so like everyone can see something different in the same painting, you know, and it's just so like I'm struggling to find the word I'm looking at the it's just so like anything goes where someone like I'll see this, you'll see that, and there are like famous paintings all across the world where people see different things. And subjective. Ah, there we go. Art is subjective. I'm struggling to find that.
yeah.
And it's impossible to make something of art, a piece of art that is universally loved. There is
Hmm.
always going to be at least one person, no matter what, in my opinion. I could wants to correct me. I think well, at least one person is going to be upset with or doesn't like something, even if the entire rest of the world does. And if it's not just to be different, you know. Well, I'm not a sheep. I gotta think for myself. You know what I mean? Like, even if it's just for that, there's gonna be at least one person
Yeah,
that doesn't approve it.
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I've definitely been in that case a lot of times. Where I tried to be that person, without really giving it a chance. You know what I mean? I didn't give Spider Verse a chance when I first saw it. I was like, what is this? You know what I mean? I was like, this isn't my
Yeah.
typical art style, you know. I didn't give JoJo's Bizarre Adventures a chance. I was like, whoa, what is this? It's like it's drawn on paper. I didn't give it a
Right.
chance. You know? I didn't give Castlevania a chance when I first saw it.
Ooh,
But that was one of the greatest stories
love
I've
that.
saw. And I
So
was
good.
just like, I didn't expect it to be that good. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, it's based on a video game, you know how that goes, et cetera, et
Right.
cetera, you
Yep.
know. But I saw it, I was like, oh my goodness, you know what I mean? Because it was that gap where they gave us like seasons back to back or the pandemic. Um, but yeah, you art is definitely subjective. My feedback I got it from one of the artists from uh Marvel, and they looked at my art and it was just like, basically said that, hey, are you happy with this? And this is on my first book, not Oni Hunter. This is way before, like 2016, 2017. And I was like, are you happy with this? And I was just like, basically what they were trying to say is your art is a reflection of you. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You're coming to us with this, but is this really what you want to put out? You know, and in my head, it's stuck with it. And I don't settle for less. Nothing.
Yep.
Nothing related to my art. Because if I'm going to show face, if I'm going to say, hey, this is me, this is what I'm putting out there, I can't put out crap. I mean, we got so many creators out
Yeah.
there. And I'm not saying that we're all competition for each other, but in
But we
terms of
kind
the
of are.
appeal, in terms of people's eyes and the appeal, kind of are. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Well,
it's like,
so being a competitor is not necessarily a bad thing. Like
no,
some of the greatest competitors of all time, you look at like someone like Jordan and
yeah,
Magic, you know,
yeah,
or Magic and Larry, you know, where like they brought out the best of them, and it
yes,
wasn't hate. It was just, hey, we're on two separate sides, and we have to do this.
yeah. I mean,
So,
we have our own audience. You know what I mean? We have
right.
our own audience, but it's just a matter of, okay, like say for example, two people have two Kickstarters going on same time or right after each other, right? You're gonna go for and back the one that you like the best.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So you got to make sure yours is the best
Right.
because money is scarce these days. You know what I
Oh,
mean? You know,
yeah,
and sometimes Kickstarters could be costly because you're trying to recoup costs, and
yeah,
also maybe you have a little bit left over to start the next book.
yeah,
You know, um, but not to say that's with all cases, but just to say that in the eyes of a consumer, they want to look at something that's appealing. And
yep.
me as a consumer myself, I know that when I go to a comic book store, I buy whichever cover looks the best. You know,
Yep. No, and
so
you say that that terminology, don't judge a book by its cover, but in a comic book shop you kind of do, and then maybe you pick it up and see, is this what I'm interested in? But
yep,
you're walking by, a cover catches your eye, it doesn't matter. You're gonna pick that up.
I'm gonna pick it up. Yep.
You know what I mean? And I what I that's another thing people are talking about a lot lately is too many exclusives, too many variants, and while I do think that it is a problem, there are quite a few, there are too many sometimes. The way it allows people to get into the industry that could never have done it before, I think the good and the entrance of talent and people who actually want to be in the comic book industry outweighs the negative effects. I think if as a community we kind of rein it in just a bit, where we don't have 70 different covers, but maybe 20 or 30. Yes, for a big title, why not? I mean, I know I have two exclusives with a good Good Boy volume 2, and the new James Tynion World Tree, and it's 300 covers, 300 copies. I get what, 60 or whatever the cutout came out to be, and like I have a comic book with my logo on it that has, it's a James Tynion cover, a James Tynion book. That literally makes me so happy. Like, just to be able to go, yeah, you guys reading World Tree? Yeah, I have an exclusive cover. You want to see it? It's an Alan Qua. It's freaking cool as shit. Come here. You know what I mean? Like, excuse me. If we didn't have the opportunities to do that, some people like me and some artists, even like there are a lot of artists that are just now, like, think about David Nakayama, one of the most talented and most recognizable artists that we have. He was doing only exclusive covers pretty much, besides the random cover here and there that was actually the A or B cover. And now, because he was so loved and so popular, he's now getting to do the A covers and the B covers, and there's something to be said about that, if nothing else. And I think that we have to, like, take a step back sometimes, realize that the bigger picture is definitely something that is more beneficial. I think we just need to do a little bit better job at the community of policing it. Like, if there's
Yeah.
70 covers, and maybe we should all agree that we only buy 20 of them. You know what I mean? Like, because
Yeah.
maybe over time it will change, and people won't just do the 300,000th ASM 300 homage cover. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there comes a time where I don't care how classic the cover is. If there's 2,000 of them, it's not classic anymore. Like, I'm sorry, you ruined it. Like there's a reason why songs from like the 70s and 80s like were popular then, and then like
Yeah.
Never Gonna Give You Up, that song was so popular, and now it's been played to death to the point where it's now used as like a, like, gotcha moment, you were rickrolled, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's got to, like, it, just because it's real exciting at one point doesn't mean it's not going to be something that's mocked later on or used to mock someone later on. You know what I mean? So that's always something you got to look at. But I want to hop back to your book. So tell me about the book, your book that's out on Kickstarter as of what, 2 days ago, right? Launched 2 days ago.
Monday. Yep. Yep.
All right.
We have Oni Hunter. So basically, Oni Hunter is a story about a basketball legend. He's actually pretty young. I don't talk about his age yet in the book, but he came to the league straight out of high school. And with this, mid-game one day, he just gets contracted with this deadly illness. The illness was disclosed, the scientific name for it, but not the actual ancient Japanese name for it. uh, and where he got the illness hasn't been disclosed in the book series yet.
Okay.
But he has this illness, and he finds out that in order for him to prolong his life and to gain life energy, he has to kill demons called Oni. So Oni are shape shifting demons that eat people and then take on their form.
Okay.
Yeah. So
That
they
doesn't
eat people.
like draw you in right away. I don't know. Like I'm over here like with like kid and candy store, like tell me more, please.
Yep,
Like
yep. So they eat people, take over. It's not like they take over their skin or jump in their body, or like they just like they eat somebody and basically absorb their soul, and then they turn into them, right?
okay.
And then depending on how many ani or people they eat, they turn into stronger beings, ani lords, ani
Mm,
vice lords, etc. So we see the first Ani Lord within this book, and he defeats them. Because basically every time he kills a demon, Ani, he gains life energy, but he also gets stronger. So who knows what's going to happen if he like fights off a horde of like 100 Ani? His powers will develop. But right now he is powerless. He uses his money as a way to defeat enemies by building certain weapons to
that's
take on
cool.
these Ani. And he's getting trained by this sensei. So this sensei's teaching him right from wrong, but being a basketball player who always gets this way, it's a little difficult for him to focus.
Right.
You know,
Oh man, this sounds so awesome. It's got like a such a diverse blend of topics that somehow seem to weave together perfectly. Like if you think like demon hunting basketball, that shouldn't work, but somehow in the way you lay it out, it just does. Like it's I'm sitting here thinking to myself like, how did he just do that? Because he got me thinking that fits perfectly, and it's perfect. Like
now the thing is, that combination, it has to be carefully discussed. You know what I mean? Because you may have the audience that's like, oh, I love the basketball aspect. I want to see more basketball. But then you got the audience that says, I love the demon hunting aspect. Let me see more demon hunting.
right.
And I know like the first arc is definitely focusing a lot more on the demon hunting, but it's still showing the basketball qualities. But I mean, hey, we may see a future arc with just basketball, no demon hunting. So there's
Right.
options.
Well, it's and that's the thing, when you're trying to tell a really good story, uh it's a lot of people, just the people who just enjoy the content, don't see you got to build it. Like you can't just go to the big bad. You can't just, you have to have steps. You have to have an actual journey. And even if you're not like actually going anywhere, it's just the process of the story. You want to have dynamic characters that aren't the same one note all the way across the whole thing. And I definitely think you've got a lot of stuff in here that can really shine.
Yeah.
And I really think that we can definitely look forward to seeing this. Where can we find it?
You can find it right now on Kickstarter. So we have it on Kickstarter. The thing with Oni Hunter, you go to Icarus Metro Comics, not the website, the Instagram. You go to the Instagram, you see the link in the bio, you go right to the Kickstarter. If you sign up for our email list on the website, you'll be getting notifications about the Kickstarter. But if you go straight to the Instagram, Icarus Metro Comics, you can find Oni Hunter on Kickstarter. You can check out the Kickstarter, see everything you get with the Kickstarter. You can get the Oni Hunter basketball shorts, the Oni Hunter
Uh-oh.
Stonewash tee, the Hunter Scully cap. And you can also get yourself immortalized to be an Ani within the second book. So yeah, you can definitely check out Oni Hunter today on those sites. You'll see it all over social media.
Awesome. And I'm gonna include the Kickstarter.